Hwa Young loved her home. She loved the hilly region of Carnelian where they lived. She loved the star blooms that blanketed the hill slopes, glimmering softly in the dark of night. She loved braiding garlands of the flowers to drape over their pillows so they could breathe the tickling sweet fragrance as they slept. She didn't want to leave the walls of rust-colored stone, the windows of rutilated quartz. She didn't want to wait in the boring shelter. While it had been 3 years since they had last been forced to take shelter, she remembered the stifling air, how uncomfortably she'd huddled with her siblings while playing card games. Sejin cheated anyway, and bossy Najin sided with him when she complained. In particular, she didn't want to come back to find the walls defaced, the doors smashed open, the starbloom garlands torn apart in a search for some treasure she didn't own. "Time to decide," Mother Era said. She produced her knife like a stab, blade out. "We're leaving." One by one, the other adults displayed their blades, everyone except eldest Paik. Hwa Young was ashamed of eldest Paik. Z was outnumbered. The least Z could do was show Zur knife, even if it had to be hilt first, and complete the ritual. Without waiting for the stubborn eldest, Mother Era hefted the bag she'd prepared, which rested against the wall of the common room. One by one, everyone picked up their bag. Everyone but Paik and the littlest one, the 2-year-old who was too young for a name. Hwa Young winced as the straps dug into her shoulders, but she was selfishly glad Mother Era had prevailed. The sense of vertigo that had plagued Hwa Young ebbed away. Maybe the ritual was good enough to fix things, despite eldest Paik's stubbornness. Maybe she didn't have to worry about the gravity after all. They would be safe in the shelter, and after a bunch of boring card games, they would come back home and everything would be all right. Eldest Paik stood to the side, scowling. Hwa Young had never noticed before how stooped Zur's shoulders were, how roomy Zur's eyes, the strands of gray in Zur's black hair. She'd always thought of Zur as being tall and unbowed, the bravest one. Surely Z would acknowledge the household's will, come along, and lend them Zur wisdom. Hwa Young never found out whether eldest Paik would have abandoned the family. Years later, she'd dream of eldest Paik's furrowed brow, Zur's outstretched hand as Z reached toward them. To stop them? To join them? She would always wonder. The attack came all at once, while Aunt Yura stood in the doorway, struggling to get her bag clear. Except Aunt Yura wasn't there anymore. The last impression of her that Hwa Young received was her long hair curling outward in all directions. The downward hand of gravity had vanished. Hwa Young heard shrieks. One of them was her own. For several moments, she saw the world as through a kaleidoscope. Fissures opened in the house's floor, walls, windows. A lamp with an expensive paper shade exploded into a fine mist of light and sparks. From the time she could understand words, before she could speak, Hwa Young had been drilled in what to do in case of gravity failure. But the drills only accounted for minor failures. What use was it to grasp her hand and footholds if the walls had shut it apart, when her whole family had been pulled away from her? She reached out for the flailing hands of her brother, Sejin, who had been standing behind her as they grabbed their bags. At a time like this, it didn't matter if he was the one who made fun of the way she braided her long hair. She needed her brother, needed the solid comfort of his grasp. But as she tried to clutch him, a chunk of wall crashed into her. It knocked her in a direction she didn't recognize as up, down, or sideways. Anything but away.